It's been 2 years since Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. In that time, more than 31,000 Ukrainian soldiers have been killed in action. It's believed tens of thousands of civilians have died in occupied areas of Ukraine too. The President Volodymyr Zelensky has warned the death toll will rise unless the West sends more military aid to the front line. For more on this, I'm joined by Vision CEO Daniel Wordsworth, who was one of the first heads of an NGO to travel to Ukraine back in 2022. And Daniel, you're planning to return in April.
That's right, Laura. Hi, it's good to see you. Yes, actually, I'm going back in March in the next few weeks.
And what's the greatest area of need at the moment? Because there's a lot of focus on the military strategy and the front lines, but what is going on for everyday Ukrainians?
Oh, it's a dreadful situation. This has been dragging on for 2 years. You have 3 million children that are caught up directly in this conflict. You have kids that are going to school now. This is their 3rd year going to school now in bunkers. You have 1/3 of the country had to flee because of the war. 1/3 is caught up in the war, and the 1/3 in the middle are trying to care for everybody else.
So what will World Vision be doing exactly when you go there? And where is the greatest area of need?
Well, the need is spread out, actually. There's still need for the refugees, but there's a large part of need that exists in the eastern part of the country and the southern part of the country. We have been working there constantly through that 2 years. As you mentioned, I actually crossed the border very early in the dispute and began resupplying a hospital. We have been there for the 2 years. We've helped around 1.6 million people over that time, 500,000 with food, around 370,000 with direct cash grants. So we're going to stay there for as long as we're needed, and our focus is always on kids, and we're going to keep going.
What's life like in Ukraine at the moment? For some, is it, life goes on and they're so far away from the conflict that it's kind of normal, but in other parts, are people living without electricity, unable to get food for weeks?
Yeah, it's like that. But actually, when I was there, one thing really stood out to me. I was in an area that you would consider a safe area. There are still a lot of missiles coming in, though. So I was in this safe area. I was in a school where a lot of the refugees were gathered. And while I was there, they took me downstairs and they showed me this little room. And when I walked in, it looked like a beautiful little kindergarten. It was bright yellow. It had rainbows. It had one of those little ball pits, a little library. And I said, "Is this your kindergarten?" And they said, "No, this is our bomb shelter. The kids spend so long in these bomb shelters that we've set it up like a kindergarten so they're not traumatized by the experience." So even when you're in a safe zone, the war and the dangers posed by the war are a central part of your experience of childhood as you grow up. So there really is no safe place. There really is no place that is unaffected by this conflict for kids.
Yeah, for kids in particular, I mean, this affects them for their whole lives. And when, this is an open-ended conflict, Daniel, we don't know when this war is going to end. Is there, to organisations like yours, how do you deal with that? Do you work with, trauma specialists now, or is it just purely survival?
No, you have to balance these things. So yes, you have to provide food assistance, shelter, you have to get kids back into school, but you must also look at the psychosocial impacts of this. So we do have counsellors, we do engage in this kind of psychosocial assistance. Kids can't go for 2 years without you addressing those things. So it's not enough to just do the emergency stuff. You've got to always be thinking about the long-term impacts on these families, and that's what we try to do.
Well, it's a complex job. I'm glad you're doing it. Daniel, thanks so much for your time, and you head off in March. So just a couple of weeks. We'll speak to you when you get back. Yeah.